After reviewing coverage from several media outlets, as well as boots-on-the-ground journalists who were present in the courtroom for David's preliminary hearing, the consensus was generally the same. According to multiple people in the courtroom, including People magazine and 2 independent creators who received lottery access, David appeared nonchalant. He reportedly showed no visible emotion and didn't seem outwardly affected at all by the gruesome images that were presented in court of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's dismembered remains. David Anthony Burke, who goes by the stage name David, appeared for the first day of his preliminary hearing in connection with the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a 14-year-old girl that prosecutors alleged David had been sexually abusing years leading up to her death. David has pled not guilty. Keep in mind, this is not the actual trial. The judge is not here to decide whether David is guilty. The purpose of the preliminary hearing is for the judge to determine whether the prosecution has enough evidence to proceed with trial. Now, we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right in, but first I want to give flowers where they are due. Aside from traditional media, several members got access via lottery, a randomized ticket system to get access to the courtroom, and 2 individual creators, I have them both tagged, are the ones I followed recaps for. I'm sure that there were other individuals as well, but I followed at Sloan and at Mason Monroe, so I wanted to give a huge shout out. They give in-depth recaps of what they experienced and what they witnessed in the courtroom. Please feel free to check out their content. I'm going to summarize all of that to the best of my ability. I'm going to look at my notes here. I also reviewed reporting from the Associated Press, Reuters, the LA Times, The Guardian, and People magazine. And before I begin, I do want to issue a serious trigger warning. This covers the killing of a minor and the dismemberment of her remains. If that is in any way triggering to you, please scroll past this video and I will catch you in the next one. I just want to make sure that nobody is being mentally or psychologically affected by what we're about to cover. Let's begin. I did my best to compile all of this into a timeline, even though the journalists were understandably giving us the information in the order they received it throughout the day. The first witness was a law enforcement officer who conducted a welfare check at one of David's residences on February 17, 2024. Body camera footage from that welfare check was played in court. According to Sloan, the officer and his partner arrived at the home looking for Celeste, but she wasn't there. David reportedly told the officers that Celeste had represented herself to him as being 18 years old. Now, during that conversation, David allegedly began volunteering information, borderline oversharing, stuff that officers had not necessarily asked for. At one point, he mentioned that he had beer inside the refrigerator, even though he himself was underage at the time. David also reportedly showed the officers photographs of Celeste, including photographs from a yearbook. The officer remarked that she looked extremely young, reportedly saying that she appeared to be around 13. The officer nevertheless described David as cooperative. That became important when the prosecutor challenged what cooperative actually meant in this situation. A person can answer questions, invite officers inside, and appear helpful while still allegedly providing false or misleading information about the person police are trying to locate. Mason Monroe, one of the independent creators, added another detail from this testimony. He said the officer discussed seeing a Hello Kitty item inside the home and acknowledged that David had known Celeste for several years. He also believed the officer became emotional during his testimony. His interpretation was that the officer may have felt guilty and believed he should have done more during that earlier welfare check. But the purpose of the first witness appears fairly clear. Prosecutors were establishing that law enforcement had previously gone to David's home looking for Celeste, that David knew exactly who she was, and that he had photographs of her, and that even the officer who saw those photographs believed she looked far younger than 18. The second major witness was LAPD homicide detective Joshua Byers. This is where the evidence became significantly more graphic. Detective Byers was involved in the investigation of the Tesla after Celeste's remains were discovered at a Hollywood tow yard. According to published reporting, the Tesla had been abandoned near David's residence before it was eventually towed. On September 8, 2025, workers at the tow yard detected a foul odor coming from the vehicle, and inside the front trunk, commonly known as the frunk, investigators reportedly found Celeste's remains in 2 separate bags, a partially unzipped body bag and another garbage bag. Photographs of those bags and Celeste's remains were displayed in court. Sloan described seeing severe decomposition, insects, larvae, and maggots. He also described images showing that Celeste's head, arms, and portions of her legs had been removed. One photograph reportedly showed her torso. Other images showed her limbs placed inside a separate bag. The medical evidence is important here. Prosecutors allege that Celeste was killed through multiple penetrating injuries, described in court coverage as stabbing injuries, and that her body was dismembered afterward. In other words, prosecutors are not alleging that the dismemberment itself was the cause of death. Their theory is that Celeste was stabbed and killed first, and her remains were dismembered afterward. Then photographs were shown of Celeste's hands. Prosecutors allege 2 of her fingers were removed in an attempt to conceal tattoo evidence connecting her to David. One photograph reportedly showed the word "shh" tattooed on one of Celeste's remaining fingers. Sloan also described photographs of Celeste's right kneecap. According to his account, small pieces of blue plastic appear to be embedded inside the tissue, and that becomes significant when we discuss the chainsaws. Investigators testified about a series of purchases allegedly connected to David after Celeste disappeared. Those purchases reportedly included 2 cadaver or body bags, a shovel, reportedly 4 chainsaws discussed during the hearing, a blue inflatable pool, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a mop set. Prosecutors say some of these items were ordered under the false name Travion Davis, but were paid for using David's own cards and delivered to his residence. Several chainsaws were recovered from the home, and according to Sloan, the recovered chainsaws did not test positive for blood or DNA. Naturally, the defense emphasized that. But there was another chainsaw, described as blue, that was allegedly ordered through an on-demand delivery service and was never recovered. That missing blue chainsaw is important because of the blue plastic fragments Sloan said were shown embedded in Celeste's knee. We do not yet know whether testing conclusively proved that those fragments came from that specific chainsaw. Investigators also reportedly recovered a blue inflatable pool from the residence. There had been speculation that the pool may have been used to contain blood during the dismemberment. However, based on Sloan's understanding of the testimony, it was not clearly established during day 1 that the pool had actually been used for that purpose. A device described as a burn box or a portable incinerator was also reportedly discovered at the residence. Sloan referred to it as a burn cage and said it appeared unopened. Published reporting described it as a portable burn box allegedly purchased after Celeste's death. The most significant forensic detail reported by the Associated Press and other major outlets was that blood recovered from David's garage was reportedly connected to Celeste through DNA testing. That's important because Sloan knew that swabs and forensic samples had been collected from the residence, but he did not yet know the results of that testing when he made his recap. Detective Byers also testified about digital and vehicle evidence. A receipt from Ross Dress for Less was reportedly discovered inside the Tesla, and that receipt was dated July 29, 2025. So investigators used that receipt to locate surveillance footage from the store, which allegedly showed David driving the Tesla that day. Now, according to Sloan, investigators then reconstructed the vehicle's movements. The Tesla traveled through Culver City before eventually returning to the area near David's residence. The vehicle was not parked directly in front of the house. It was reportedly left across the street and slightly down the road, in a place that was not immediately visible from the residence, but still only a few minutes away on foot. The Tesla remained there, accumulating parking tickets, and was ultimately towed. Investigators also examined a massive amount of digital information, reportedly between 6 and 8 terabytes of data. That's a lot of data. They discussed an email account identified as followit@gmail.com, a device strangely named Tranquilizer, and the way a person's phone connects to a Tesla when they enter the vehicle. The physical phone identified as Tranquilizer has never been recovered. However, investigators did recover a blue iPhone from the den inside David's home. Now, according to Sloan, that phone contained photographs of David, photographs of Celeste, images of David's passport, and photographs of credit cards. The defense reportedly attempted to suggest that the blue phone belonged to Celeste. Sloan questioned that theory, though, because so much of David's personal identifying information was stored on that phone. I suspect that will be one of the digital evidence disputes that continues throughout the hearing. The third witness discussed in Sloan's recap was Benjamin Greger, a financial professional connected to David's management and his mother, Colleen. As Sloan mentioned, the financial testimony initially seemed slightly out of place during this murder hearing, but prosecutors appeared to be using it to support their alleged motive. Their theory is that Celeste was threatening to expose the sexual relationship with David, and that David killed her because he believed that exposure could destroy his rapidly growing music career. And testimony reportedly established that David had already earned approximately $11 million during his relatively short career. According to Sloan, Benjamin was questioned about efforts to assemble approximately $2 million for bail and about movement involving David's assets, including money from an IRA and funds placed into trusts. Sloan interpreted that testimony as suggesting that David's family and advisors were attempting not only to raise bail money, but also to protect David's assets from a potential civil lawsuit filed by Celeste's family. He also reported that Benjamin was being paid $7,500 as a monthly retainer by David's mother, and that some communications involving David's financial team moved to Signal after the Tesla was discovered. Signal is a private messaging application known for end-to-end encryption, meaning the messages are designed to be readable only by the people sending and receiving them. Now, Signal is not evidence of a crime by itself, but prosecutors believe that the timing of that change in communication is relevant. As for the emotional atmosphere in the courtroom, both Sloan and Mason said Celeste's mother, father, and sister were present. Sloan described Celeste's mother crying several times throughout the hearing. He said that when Celeste's full name, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, was spoken aloud, her mother began sobbing. He described her father as looking lost, confused, and devastated, while Mason described Celeste's father as appearing visibly angry and betrayed. Before one of the most graphic photographs were displayed, Mason said the prosecutor looked toward Celeste's mother and repeatedly told her to put her head down, and so she did. Mason said people looked as though they wanted to cry. He became physically ill, lost his appetite, and said the images remained in his mind long after he left the courthouse. Sloan was equally disturbed. He was seated directly behind Celeste's family and described how painful it was to watch them attempt to shield themselves from photographs of their daughter and sister. And then there was David. Sloan, Mason, and People magazine all described him as showing no obvious visible emotional reaction while looking at the photographs. Mason said David entered the courtroom smiling and greeting people. Sloan also described him as appearing cheerful and relaxed before the hearing began. Celeste's family cried and struggled to process those images. Members of the courtroom were visibly disturbed, and David reportedly remained outwardly still and expressionless, holding his chin in his hand. Today is day 2 of the preliminary hearing, and public access will once again be determined through a lottery system. I believe 10 individuals get access and then 10 are on standby. As always, I will continue to monitor for updates. I'm going to wait until the end of the day because there's a lot of information being thrown around and I don't like to give real-time updates. I hate having to go back and correct the record, or course correct as I like to call it, but I'm going to wait until the end of the day. As we know, David has pled not guilty, although it seems like the writing is on the wall. So I will keep you updated as updates become available. I'll catch you in the next one.